Yo, how's it going everyone? This is Mitchell Mander here, and welcome to another review of the Pokemon Journeys series. We're going to be covering episode 87 in today's review, and this is a Koharu focus episode, in which Koharu makes a new friend in today's episode, a transfer student from an unknown region. I don't believe the region was actually named in the episode, but she's transferring from a faraway region to Koharu's school. Koharu goes, I should say. But anyways, that's the gist of the episode, so how was it overall? Well, before we get into the episode review, I just want to say if you're new to the channel and you like this type of content, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. It'd be pretty awesome if you would do that. But anyways, let's talk about this episode. Now, the main premise of the episode is that we have a transfer student from a faraway region, as I just mentioned, is joining Koharu's school. And this particular day, Go is actually going to school and bringing Ash along with him, because Go has a presentation, and the presentation has to do with their friends. And I guess bringing Ash along and being the main focus of the presentation is kind of required here, even though Ashy Boy here doesn't go to school. But anywho, on their way to school, Koharu actually notices a girl near a fountain, and she has a Glaceon. Obviously, Koharu wants to know more about Eevee and its evolutions, so gets a little curious, and unfortunately, Ash and Go distract her, and when she turns back around to see where the girl's at, she's gone. But luckily for Koharu, she's actually the transfer student that's coming to her school that day. Moving on, Go has his presentation of his buddy and best friend, Ash Ketchum, which I thought was pretty hilarious because he talks about how Ash only thinks about Pokemon and Pokemon battles, which is pretty much spot on, as Ash is unable to come up with anything else. The students are already laughing, and this makes them laugh even more. But Go does point out that Ash does understand the feelings of Pokemon, which I like how Koharu is commenting to herself about how everything that Go is saying is just spot on and true. Talks about how this has turned into a comedy act, as they're all pretty much laughing at Ash. So I thought this whole segment was pretty funny. We then have Regina, the new transfer student, showing up. And she has to take her Glaceon out to the park because she can't have her Pokemon with her in the classroom. It just has to go to the playground with the other Pokemon. Koharu volunteers to take her out. And Koharu is being very friendly, trying to make friends with Regina here. But she's being pretty silent and distant. But Koharu is still being very nice. She's being very outgoing in this situation. And then they move to the playground, and her Glaceon doesn't seem to like the fact that Grookey, Pikachu, and Eevee are actually being friendly with her. And Koharu actually joins in too and starts petting Glaceon. Now, as Koharu and Regina return back to the classroom, all the students gather at the door and are basically surrounding Regina and trying to talk to her and learn more about her. And I guess her Glaceon escaped from the playground as Pikachu, Grookey, and Eevee chase after it. And Glaceon thinks that Regina is being threatened over here by the other students and proceeds to freeze them all. And this triggers some PTSD with Regina over here, as it's revealed that when she was a little bit younger, when she was at a different school, she was being bullied. Constantly bullied by the other kids, calling her the Ice Queen. And she didn't like this. Obviously, she doesn't want to be compared to the Ice Queen, apparently. And her Glaceon shows up and starts freezing the students. And apparently this is something that's been going on from school to school, which is why she basically rarely stays at a school. It's because she's not making friends. They're apparently bullying her, or her Glaceon perceives other students talking to Regina as a threat and just freezes them. So yeah. Another interesting thing in this episode is that one of the reasons why Regina came to Vermilion City, specifically to the school here, is so her parents could seek out Professor Sakuragi to find out what's wrong with Glaceon. They also want Regina to make friends. So there's that. But anyways, back to the school. As you can understand, this whole situation was very awkward, and all the other students were quite distant to Regina as a result of this incident. And as she's leaving the classroom, Koharu shows up and wants to eat lunch with her, but she rejects this and basically says, "Yeah, you're not going to see me after today. My only friend is Glaceon," and runs off. Now, moving on, Regina's actually sitting in the teacher's office. And Koharu actually thinks that she's getting kicked out of the school, so her, Ash, and Go break into the teacher's office. But as it turns out, the teacher's actually talking to Regina about the school. And since she's a new transfer student, she obviously doesn't know a lot, and there's things that she's unaware of. So she's basically teaching her about the school. It seems like Regina over here felt like things would always be the same and that she wouldn't be here very long anyways. So she was zoning out over here. But Koharu, Ash, and Go are actually being pretty friendly to Regina here. It seems like Regina's not really used to this, as Koharu basically once again invites her out to have lunch together. So she brings out her Glaceon, but as soon as Glaceon comes out of the Pokeball, Koharu tries to be friendly with it. It tries to attack Koharu, but it ends up passing out. So they take Glaceon back to the Sakuragi labs to be examined. And while Glaceon isn't hurt in any way, it is overexerting itself as its body temperature is lower than it should be. It's using Blizzard way too much, and if it keeps doing this and if this keeps up, it will probably pass away. Professor Sakuragi basically stops short of saying that, but it's pretty clear what he's implying here. And that's when Regina realizes that Glaceon is basically protecting her all the time, but she's not doing the same. They're supposed to be friends, but she's not doing the same, so she realizes that she needs to be stronger and to be strong with her Pokemon and protect her Pokemon, just as much as her Pokemon is protecting her. So we see some growth on Regina's part. Anyways, the next day comes, and Regina apologizes to the other students about what happened, and that's when they're going to have a bunch of fun together. So, using Ash and Go's Pokemon along with her Glaceon, they basically create this huge ice playground with an ice rink in the middle of it as well. So they have a bunch of fun. Koharu and Regina, are besties now, and it seems like she's friends with everybody. And I guess some time passes as she's gone back to her home region, but she sends a postcard along with a snow globe with a Glaceon in it as a gift to Koharu, and writes her a letter, and it turns out she's actually participating in Pokemon battles now, and has grown a lot since she left the Kanto region. And that's pretty much where the episode comes to an end. Now overall, I thought this was a pretty nice episode. It was a pretty enjoyable Koharu focus episode, and I enjoyed it more than the previous Koharu episode, which I think that was the episode with her doppelganger. I wasn't really a big fan of that episode, so I'm pretty happy that this episode was better. And while it's not a perfect episode, there are a few things that I thought were pretty nice in this episode. So for starters, I like the fact that Koharu's growth is shown off here. It shows that she has grown quite a bit since the beginning of the journeys. It's very subtle, but you see her being very friendly to Ash and Go these days. Remember back in early journeys where she was very distant, she was very cold. She didn't really want anything to do with Ash and Go. Most of the time she wanted to be just away from them as much as possible. She thought they were creepy and weird. Look at her now. She's very friendly with both of them. And during Go's presentation of Ash, she's actually commenting about how Go is just spot on about Ash. And that Go's actually right about Ash when it comes to Pokemon and how he knows how Pokemon feel. She understands Ash a little bit more now, and she's being very friendly with him nowadays. But this friendly attitude extends over to Regina, whom Koharu befriended in today's episode. Regina is a character that has no friends. Her Pokemon is basically her only friend, and that doesn't really count. But she has no friends, she has trouble making friends, but in this episode, Koharu goes out of her way to be friendly and outgoing towards her, shows her around the school, wants to eat lunch with her, just wants to be a good friend. And despite Regina being cold towards her, Koharu is still worried about her, thinking that she's going to be kicked out of the school, and busts into the teacher's office trying to stop the teacher from, I guess, kicking her out of the school. So, yeah, this is a lot of growth on Koharu's part. I'm going to be honest, Ash is definitely rubbing off on Koharu because in early journeys, you see Koharu doing something like this in today's episode. I feel like in early journeys, not saying Koharu was the cruelest person, she's just very distant, she's kind of cold, she's very aloof. She might have been like one of the other students that after the incident where Glaceon froze them all, she might be distant towards Regina, not wanting to talk to her. Maybe. But that's just my opinion. I just feel like that would be Koharu's response in early journeys if this was an earlier episode. But journeys now, Koharu, I guess present day Koharu I should say, present day Koharu is more friendly and outgoing thanks to her adventures with Ash and Go. And as a result, she made a friend with Regina, and as a result of this friendship, Regina is now stronger as a person. She has a stronger bond with her Pokemon, and is now doing Pokemon battles. And it's all thanks to Koharu being a very friendly and outgoing person towards her. So, can we appreciate Koharu's growth throughout journeys at this point? Now, besides Koharu's focus in today's episode, I really enjoyed the character of the day, being Regina, and the whole focus on schools and bullying within the episode. It actually didn't feel like a Pokemon episode at times. It felt like an episode for an entirely different anime. But I appreciate it nonetheless. This is a pretty unique episode for the Pokemon series, and I appreciate it for that. But I like the themes in today's episode of loneliness, bullying, and making new friends through those traumatic experiences. It's definitely relatable. As somebody that also went through bullying when they were younger, I definitely can relate. But I like what they did here. Regina definitely was being bullied and has PTSD of this bullying. But she finally made a friend in Koharu. And as a result of this friendship, she became a stronger person. And look at her now. She's making friends left and right, and she's participating in Pokemon battles. She's got a stronger bond with her Pokemon, and everything worked out in the end. Obviously, things are different in the real world, but I like how this episode attempted to be pretty relatable. So, this episode gets a plus for that. Now, I do have a nitpick with this episode. Now, I totally get that Regina wants to be stronger for her Pokemon. She realizes her weakness and she's just hiding behind her Pokemon and not doing anything about it. So she wants to overcome this weakness, become stronger for her Pokemon, so her Pokemon isn't just solely protecting her and perceives everybody as a threat towards her. She realizes that, and I'm totally okay with that. It just feels kind of sudden that the very next day comes and Glaceon is suddenly okay with a trainer being around other people. Because it went from just being overly protective to being, okay, whatever. I won't exert myself anymore, because they kind of made a big deal of how Glaceon was just pushing itself so much to the point where it probably would pass away if it kept overexerting itself. But then suddenly Regina decides she wants to be stronger for her Pokemon, and so the next day comes and everything's hunky-dory. Glaceon isn't overexerting itself anymore, and it's totally fine now. I don't know, it just feels a bit sudden. It feels like this maybe needed a couple days. Maybe like 2 or 3 days pass. She comes back to the school. Glaceon's better now. She reveals that she's done some training with Glaceon so that it's not attacking anybody anymore. And then they create the ice park and ice rink, and then they have fun. And then we move on to the end of the episode. I don't know about you guys, but I just feel like we need to be a little bit more done here, because it does feel kind of sudden for it to just suddenly be okay with everything and not attacking anyone anymore. But that's Journeys. That's the issue with Journeys. It likes to resolve episodes. When you have an episodic plot line, you got to finish stuff in a single episode, so things kind of feel rushed. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I mean, that's just a consequence of how Journeys wants to tell its episodes. But I don't know, maybe I'm looking into it a little bit much, but that's just my main issue with today's episode. Other than that, it was a fine episode. And with that said, that's all I got to say for today's episode. So overall, it was a pretty decent episode. It was an enjoyable Koharu Focus episode. I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10. So in the comment section down below, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Did you love the episode? Did you hate the episode? Either way, let me know what you thought. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And guys, have a great day or night wherever you're at. And peace.